This tutorial goes over a few questions from NuLake pages 3 to 10 on expanding and factorising. Looking at questions 14 and 17, I want you to notice there's a basic difference between these two. Question 14 has a difference here, it's got a minus. So we've got to do this part separately from that part, whereas question 17, they are all multiplied together. So we treat them differently. So for question 14, we start with expanding 4x plus 1, write it out twice. Then when we multiply the 4x minus 3, it's multiplied by the negative 3. Make sure that every time you use the 3, you use the negative. Expand the 4x plus 1 squared, you'll get 4 terms, and 2 of them can be simplified. And the second part just drops down and doesn't change. So the final answer is 16x squared, then add all your x terms, which gives you minus 4x plus 10. For this one, it is 3 terms multiplied together, also times by the 3. We're going to use the IRC method. Ignore, then recognize, then complete. So we're going to ignore any brackets. So I'm going to ignore this first part here. I will just put a line through it and I'm going to expand the second bit. Although I have ignored it, it is still there. And so we've got to write it in. Now the second bit can be simplified a little bit further. Now we're going to recognize it and complete it. Probably easier to expand the 3 into both those parts first. Then complete the expansion by multiplying those, and then those ones, and the last 2. And put them in order of descending powers. So we'll have the 12x cubed plus 24x squared minus 3x minus 6. Note how number 14 and number 17 were done slightly differently because number 14 had this minus in there, and so that made it different. For this question here, we've got to be really careful because of the negative in there, and that's where a lot of students make mistakes. So let's start the first bit, expand the 5x minus 1 all squared, and write the 2x plus 1 also, the same sort of thing. Expand them separately, leaving the minus in the middle. Well, without putting brackets around, we'll make a common mistake. This whole thing is subtracted and you must have these brackets there, so that when you simplify the second one, it looks like this. See how those brackets have affected every part of that second term, but there's no brackets outside the first one, so they all stay the same in terms of the negatives and positives. Now group your x squared terms. That will give you 21x squared. Group your x terms and so on. And the plus 1 and the minus 1 cancel. So that there is your final answer. For question 42, we are asked to factorise this expression. I'm going to write down one student's answer and see if you can see what's wrong with it. This is a pretty good attempt. They've recognised that the x there is a common factor. I've missed out the y there, it should have a y there. So they've recognised that x and the y are common factors in both, and they've taken a common factor of 4 out also. That's not too bad, except they've still got 3 can be divided into both of those. So if we remove an extra 3 out of that bracket, we'd get 3x minus 2y, and 3 times 4 is 12. So there's your correct answer. This one is factorised but not factorised fully. This question is a little tricky. It's sort of just like the following. We would recognise to factorise this bottom one as y, x minus 1. So we can factorise this. This is equivalent to the y, so that's our common factor. Pretend that's the y. And we get left with the x minus 1. And that's how you factorise number 45. Question 48, it might appear there are no factors, but let's do it in pairs. Factorise that pair, then factorise that pair. And this has a common factor of negative 6b, So the negative also goes outside the brackets. That would be plus 1. Now that's the same as like 3acx minus 6bx. We can see a common factor of x. We would take that outside and get 3ac minus 6b. See if you can do the same with the top one. E plus 1 is our common factor, so put that outside the bracket and put the rest of the things inside the bracket. 3ac minus 6b, and that's how you factorize it fully.